When we go about our daily lives in our normal way of thinking, we perceive everything as happening to us. We see our point of consciousness shining out into the world, and we are the center of the universe, comparing ourselves and our circumstances to those around us. In yoga and meditation, when we give ourselves the time to close our eyes and sit in stillness and quiet, we disconnect from the material world and we turn our senses inward, and we're able to simply be and experience the interconnectedness of all things and beings. In our normal mode of thinking, we may say, well, our neighbor has more money than us. In our higher consciousness, we appreciate whatever we have. In our normal mode of thinking, we compare our looks to others, those around us, the billboards, the magazines, the movies. In mindfulness, we appreciate life itself and our inner wisdom, our heart, our intuition, and that same beauty and inner nature of others. We don't compare. There's no jealousy. We simply see and appreciate the beauty in the world. As we breathe the air from the trees, we become the trees. As we eat the food of the earth, we become the food of the earth. We realize that we are all one, interconnected. As we expand our perspective, loneliness disappears, rivalries dissolve, and only love remains. Because love for all is love for yourself. Once we find the oneness, the true nature of reality. As we expand our perspective, petty squabbles become meaningless, minor stresses become insignificant, anxiety over social interactions disappear, because all there is love and compassion, 100% for others. And the self dissolves, dissipating, becoming that energetic field that everyone creates, expanding to the entire universe. And when we have this universe-sized perspective, what else possibly matters besides the sheer beauty of this universe and the majesty and the magic of life itself? What daily little inconvenience or annoyance or traffic or bad boss can hold a candle to the infinite, eternal awesomeness of the universe? And so whenever we get bogged down in the day-to-day issues and difficulties, all we have to do is remember and think about and focus on this incredible miracle of existence. And it is a miracle that the infinite number of things that had to happen for me to be here talking to you and you to be there listening were able to happen in just the right way. We are but tiny specks in a tiny speck in the galaxy, which is a tiny speck in the universe. Like ants on an anthill, building their cities, living their lives, doing what is important to them at the moment, without falling for the trick that they are the center of the universe, and our lives no more important than ants and no less important than anyone else's is quite simply a miracle. The dance of life playing out in all its beauty, exactly as it's supposed to. In lower levels of consciousness, we fixate on objects and we compare them to ourselves and our situations. And as we meditate and reflect and expand our consciousness, we notice the relationships between the objects and the energy coming from people and animals and plants and everything around us. And we feel connected to the sun, which gives us life, and the moon, which sustains us. And there's only gratitude and awe. And this is why we must see beyond our perspectives, beyond borders and cultures, beyond nations and races, and see the light of consciousness in others as the same within ourselves. When we expand our perspective, we don't lash out at other people. We recognize they have a life we don't know about. They have an inner life we're even less aware of. We don't know their struggles. We don't know their trauma. And all we know is we would be them if we were in their shoes. And we would do what they did if we were in their shoes. Because we are all one, in different bodies and different experiences. But deep down, we all seek love, connection, joy, health, and happiness. With expanded perspective, we can value people's different opinions, we can forgive their mistakes, and we can know deep down that everyone is simply doing their best with where they are and what they have. And with that expanded perspective, we can see how we can help bring those people up, help them through, and provide a space for them to be without being judged, criticized, or dehumanized. And we can simply love, give, and forgive. Everything we do is a projection of what we're thinking and feeling. The human mind cannot understand the difference between kindness to someone else and kindness to yourself, between the feeling of loving yourself or loving someone else. It can't tell the difference between criticizing yourself and criticizing someone else, because the feeling is the same. If we feel love towards someone else, we feel love. If we feel love towards ourselves, we feel love. This is why being kind to others is being kind to yourself. It doesn't matter if a smile is returned. You still smiled. They're free, and you have an infinite supply of them. Give them away to everyone. And the people who smile back, you'll know are your people. Kindness is not the same as niceness. They're often mistaken for each other, but they are worlds apart. Kindness comes from wisdom, compassion. It means telling someone something they need to hear in a loving way that will help them. Nice is ignoring something that may be difficult to talk about, or it may be allowing someone to continue harmful behavior because you just want to be nice and you just want to let it slide. Kindness can be confrontation with compassion, love, and support. And when we express this kind of kindness, there is no ego that gets hurt in the other person, because they can tell immediately of the place of love that it's coming from. Kindness is not naive or weak. It is strength and a greater understanding that being kind is the only way this world can live in peace and harmony. Nice can be timid or passive-aggressive. Allow people to take advantage of you, walk all over you, treat you badly. With kindness, you can firmly say no, but without anger or rage, but from a place of strength that says, this is unacceptable behavior. I won't stand for it, but I love you and I will allow you the space to learn and evolve. That is kindness. And just because you can't see at the moment how a kind act reverberates out into the world like a ripple in the lake in infinite ways in every direction, doesn't mean that it didn't happen, because every action creates a reaction. And that act of kindness has a cause and effect. And the effect, even if it seems unnoticeable, is there. But we have a limited perspective. We see from our two eyes. We feel what this body can perceive. And we hear only what's in our surroundings in that tiny little band of frequencies that the human ear can pick up. But if we expand our perspective, if we can feel the interconnectedness of all things and all beings, we will notice the beauty that each act of kindness brings to the world. Even if it makes you feel better, you will treat others better. The better we feel, the more at peace we are, the more kindness we attract to ourselves, the more generous we are, the more generosity we see in others. It may not be instant, but just like that smile, your act of generosity, when it's returned, will let you know that these are your people. These are the kind ones. And other people, maybe just not there yet, but they'll come with enough kindness and love. And while being kind and being generous makes us feel good, and it could be said that it is a selfish act because of that good feeling, it truly is the greatest act when we do kindness, when nobody's looking and not even telling anyone. This is the selflessness, and this is the example we should each try to set for the world in true selflessness. Be the example by always being kind. This is your world. Do you want to live in a world of more kindness or less kindness? So do the thing when no one's looking, and you will live in a more kind place. We never know what other people are going through, and sometimes all they need is kindness. I once met a 96-year-old woman, full of life. Didn't seem over 55. She was a fishing boat captain her whole life. And she retired at around 70. And not sure what to do with her time left, she started to write. She started writing, and she had never written before. And I met this woman at 96 as she was reading an excerpt from her 8th novel, 8th best-selling novel. And this woman I'll keep with me for the rest of my life, because she is the definition of it's never too late to start over. It's never too late to try something new. There is no rules set on us except the ones we set on ourselves. There are no limits except the ones we imagine. As long as there is breath in your body and light in your eyes, you can find new love. You can pursue new passions. You can grow and evolve and change any way you wish. And all you have to do is take one courageous leap into the present moment and realize that this is where you are, see where you want to go, and make the path to get there. For it is the people who have the courage to go back to college as older adults, who have the most difficult time, but they possess a bravery far greater than anyone else. Because the only reason we don't start over or try something new is because of fear. Fear of failure, fear of the unknown, but simply remembering the preciousness of each moment. To see how short our lives are and how valuable each moment is. We can face the unknown. We can conquer our fear. Life's too short to half live it, to limit ourselves. We can follow our passions. We can change careers. We can change our old habits and our old ways of thinking. And we can become more present, more joyful, and with a greater zest for life. With no fear, only excitement for the great unknown. There are few greater joys in life then learning a new thing, or taking a leap of faith and trying something new, whether it's learning a new instrument, learning a new language, and to work towards something and achieve it. And this is the beauty. We're never too old, it's never too late. As you start this new adventure, as you begin a new, inexperienced and wide-eyed, and as you see the progress over time and your skills improve and your new life blossom, you'll know the journey was worth it. We all have a tendency to get complacent and repetitive in our daily lives. And over years and decades, that can become a kind of stagnation, almost a mental prison, if it's too repetitive and we're craving a break from the mundane, but we've become trapped in it. And it's a tendency we all have. We get comfortable, and over time, that comfort becomes unbearable to be without. And so it's such an important thing to remember as life goes on, to always shake things up, always go a little outside your comfort zone, keep exploring, trying new things, taking chances. And as you get older, you'll be able to keep that open-mindedness, that courage, that fearlessness. And that is the key to a big life we can look back on and be proud of. You are not your thoughts. You are not your past. You are not your failings. You are not your suffering. You are not the story you tell yourself about your life. These are simply thought forms. They are like objects in your mind. They are temporary sense perceptions recalled by your mind. Brief moments that make up a tiny percentage of your life. And so often, we relive the worst moments of our lives over and over and over again. And we spend so much of our lives living out our worst imagined fears of the future. And when we consciously become aware of it, we realize what a horrible way to live this is. The truth is, you are consciousness itself, having a perceptual experience. You are consciousness, able to perceive and act upon this world. You are this moment. It doesn't matter where you came from or what you've done. Every moment is a explosion of potential and possibility. You may carry your suffering with you, but it's a small part of you. And the ego wants to make it as big as possible, because that feeds the ego. That feeds the thinking, living in the past, or worrying about the future. This is where the ego lives. In the present moment, there is only experience itself, without labels, judgments, opinions, criticisms. And as we let go of the past, and we even let go of our expectations for the future, we can see and heal from our suffering, and we can turn our attention to the here and now. That story we created in our mind of how some suffering experience traumatized us and changed us forever, and became a part of our identity, we let go because it's gone, and it's not serving us to hold on to. If there was no suffering, there would be no striving for that inner joy and inner peace. There would be no wisdom gained or learning from mistakes. And the less we focus on traumatic experiences from our past, the less suffering we have in the present. Neither our pain nor our joys define us. We are consciousness itself, having a beautiful experience, always learning, always seeing new and different experiences that give us wisdom and understanding. We are our conscious intentions of how we wish to move forward in life. And conscious intentions can become conscious thoughts and conscious behaviors and conscious habits that are positive, healing, and lead to lasting inner peace and joy. Thank you so much for listening. Peace and love. The first source of distress comes from an inability to let go of the past and to be present and to just set down that baggage and move forward. The second source of disturbing emotion is an untruthful and harsh opinion of ourselves, an unfair opinion, because we always make the choice that is what we think is best. Nobody is making a choice that they think is going to lead to suffering later on. We're all doing the best with what we know at a certain time, which is limited information. We look back with the full picture and we're hard on ourselves for making the wrong decision. I mean, there are no wrong decisions in life. The only wrong decision is indecision. Every decision has its positives and negatives, and all you can do is what you think is right, and then you have to move forward almost without looking back. I mean, you learn from the past, but you move forward without looking back, and it's on to the next thing, and there is no regret, resentment. There's just, what do I have to do right now that's going to make my life better in the future? But we must take some action, and so decisions are necessary. And indecision based in fear is not the way to live your life. Now, sometimes inaction may be the best course of action, but that is a decision, that is a choice based on strength and confidence, not indecision, which is fear-based and irrational. But with every wrong decision comes incredible learning opportunity that can be so valuable. And it was so good that we made this mistake earlier than later. And as long as you learn from it, there is no mistake. You do your best all the time, and you can feel comfortable knowing that you did your best, and you don't have to be hard on yourself, and you don't have to hang on to that baggage. And the key to living fully in the present and letting go of the past is really the practice of meditation, staying present, observing each present breath, or focusing on each mantra in the present moment, and making a habit of the mind being present. And just as your mind wanders, you bring it back to your object of focus, and you get better at training your mind to focus on what you want to focus on. You can't avoid painful memories that you need to deal with and process. You can't stuff them down. Only problems will come, and you need to just sit with them, look at them, until their presence no longer stirs any agitation. In which case, you just bringing consciousness to this subconscious process makes it go away. We make mistakes. Don't be so hard on yourself, and I hope you can make peace. Without struggles, there would be no striving to be better, to overcome, to acquire the skills and strength to evolve as people. It is struggles that make us beautiful. Without difficulty, without suffering, no one would be on the path to self-actualization. We cannot grow without pain. And by going through pain and surviving, we become examples to the world that they're not alone. That they can overcome, that they can do better, get better. There can be no success without difficulty, because otherwise everyone would be equally successful and it wouldn't be called success. There must be the challenge, the discipline, the fortitude that is only developed and forged in fire. Every single one of us will get sick and die. Everyone we know and love will too. There's no escaping. But it is these hardest moments, these most difficult times, that show what we're truly made of, what we can truly overcome. One thing we can do is use meditation or yoga as these controlled, safe settings for pushing our limits, for achieving difficult things. And we can build that strength in a safe, supportive way. It's not easy to meditate when you've spent decades constantly thinking, constantly doing, constantly being entertained, constantly buried in work or pleasure. But that is why we must use this moment right here, right now, to undo that habit of compulsively looking for what's next, seeking pleasure, avoiding pain, and training our mind to be present and at peace. Everything we do is training ourselves to do that thing habitually. We're either making good habits or bad habits. We're either training our mind to be unfocused and unhappy, or we're training it to find peace and happiness within. Every moment is a choice. And the more we do the hard thing, sitting in meditation, doing challenging yoga poses, or even working out extra strenuously, trying to go a little longer in the sauna or on the treadmill, we are creating the habits to face adversity when it comes into our lives head on with grace and elegance and peace and calm. We are training our mind to embrace the difficulty so that whatever comes at us in our lives, we are prepared for. It will not disrupt our inner peace because we've trained for this. And we can overcome anything. Oftentimes, it is the people who've suffered the most who have the quickest and easiest path to enlightenment and self-actualization, because they've been through so much, because they are survivors, they are fighters. And if that is you, we need your lessons, we need your example. And so share it with the world. You are the light that will lead the way out for so many people. And we see this so much in our lives because we see people of lower incomes who value friendships and relationships and take great pleasure in the simple things. And we see people who live in excess and extreme wealth, who find the slightest inconvenience unbearable, who yell at waiters and complain constantly. And so no matter where you're coming from, never forget this lesson and create these safe spaces for tension and struggle in your life. And you will grow and evolve in ways you've never dreamed. Do not despair over your struggles, for you are blessed with the strength to lift others up. The reason we have jealousy is because we resist jealousy. We fight it, we try to push it away, and so we don't understand it. We put up a resistance to it, and so we're strangers to jealousy. And in order to dissolve our jealousy, because we can't fight it, but we can dissolve the weight and the power it has over our inner peace and a calm, joyful mindset. But instead of fighting it, we have to accept it, and we have to look at it and embrace it. All suffering from jealousy lies in the resistance to jealousy. If we can love our jealousy and look at it, and we remain calm and centered, and we can tap into our higher consciousness and our higher wisdom and say, this isn't serving me. I see it, I recognize it, but I choose to not focus on it or to disturb my inner peace. And by looking closely, we'll see that jealousy isn't actually a real thing that is there. It may be things we see that we long for, and so we sit with that feeling. It may be someone showing off something they have and making us angry, but those are just words that is another person's life, and these are just comparative thought patterns. When we see the world as endless variety, we fail to see the oneness. And the comparative mindset thrives in this seeming object-fueled world we live in, which of course misses the true meaning of our lives that are non-material, like love, connections, relationships. And so we have to raise our awareness to this connectedness, this oneness. Raise this awareness to every emotional and mental state of our own mind, and make peace with what is, and use our powers of focus to turn our mind towards the things that really matter, towards making our lives and those around us better, more joyful, more peaceful and calm, more healthy and beautiful. And in this way, we turn our attention from jealousy of someone else's success into the creation of someone else's success. And this is the dissolving power that the light of consciousness can shine on the darknesses of things like jealousy and envy and greed. We can't control everything that happens to us. We can't control what other people do. And so we can't control everything that comes into our mental space. It may be something desirable, it may be something undesirable, or even our mind may constantly be projecting comparisons. But we can control how we view every situation that comes into our minds. Whatever enters our physical surroundings that are picked up by our sense perceptions and projected into our minds, we can learn to sit with whatever comes in peace and acceptance and even love. Having jealousy is worse than having the thing you're jealous about. It makes us obsessive and negative and it feels terrible, and we hate that we are feeling this jealousy. And it is that hatred where the actual suffering lies. And allowing that jealousy to just be, and just even be a opportunity and a reminder to notice this funny little thought that pops in our head. This funny little clever, sneaky tactic of the ego. This brings our higher consciousness into play, and we can notice something without following that train of thought. We can notice something arise, and we don't have to believe it. We can just be aware of it. Because deep down, with our higher consciousness and intuition leading us, we fundamentally know that jealousy does not serve us. It wants to disturb our inner peace, just wants to give the ego something to fixate on. It'll keep the ego busy for so long, and that just strengthens the ego the more time it has in control of our higher consciousness, and does not want us to know that there is a greater wisdom within us, a wisdom that knows jealousy causes inner torment, does nothing for the other person, destroys relationships, creates negative feelings. And we do that simply by observing, looking close, turning our attention inward towards the jealousy, and raising our awareness to the jealousy and to the oneness of all reality, where we become one with the universe, where there is no separateness for yourself or someone else, because there is no separate you and separate them. There is only oneness. There can be no jealousy once we experience this oneness, because there is no I or you. There is only a force of love and consciousness when everything is stripped away. And so as we weed the seeds of jealousy and envy in our mind, let's plant and nourish the seeds of gratitude and love. And over time, you will see a beautiful garden of the mind. Trying to force our minds to stop thinking negative thoughts is like trying to mop up the ocean with a mop. You're never going to make any progress. It's that old expression, don't think of a purple elephant, and then that is all you will think about. The thing we try to push away the most is the thing that will build up in our minds more and more and more the harder we try. This is why resistance is futile. We have to work with our mind, and we have to understand the nature of our mind. And what this means is to observe our mind. This is what is at the root of all understanding. All wisdom, all scientific inquiry starts with observation. And when we notice negative thoughts in our mind, you can't suppress them, you can't control them, and you can't force them to stop. To suppress them means they're still there, underneath the surface, and just waiting to explode in either rage and anger, or in physical pain or medical illness, because the mind and the body are connected. And if you try to ignore something or pretend something isn't there, then it can really fester and multiply. The only thing we can really do is bring conscious awareness to unconscious thinking patterns, because we would not think negative thoughts consciously. These are unconscious impulses. And so consciousness is what will dissolve that. The light of consciousness will overshine the darkness of unconscious, unaware, negative thinking patterns. We must become aware of them. And then once we become aware of them, that unconscious thinking stops immediately. So it's not enough to try to force them away or wish them away. We have to observe it, understand how the mind works, what makes it think negative things. And then the most important thing we can do after that is to expand our conscious awareness and to expand our perspective so that the thing that is bothering us, the thing we think negatively of, becomes microscopic compared to the beauty and wonder that we focus our attention on instead. It's as though our mind is the ocean, and negative thoughts and all the stress is the surface. And when we become aware of the depth of the ocean, the silence and the stillness and the calm just beneath the surface that is miles deep, those maybe 15-foot raging waves seem insignificant. And so we have to practice raising our awareness, and most importantly, we have to practice learning to focus and shift our attention. And this is really what meditation is all about, because in meditation, we are doing something that people always say when you're a child, pay attention, but you're never taught how to do. And in meditation, we are just practicing on paying attention, either to your breath, your body, or a mantra, or if you like a candle or a crystal, whatever is your focus of awareness. You make the practice of training your mind to pay attention and to focus on that thing, or whatever, that skill of training your mind to pay attention will translate into paying attention and focusing on whatever it is you wish. And once we learn to pay attention and focus our mind and become consciously aware of what we choose to, we stop focusing on negative things and we choose instead to focus on positive things, because consciously we are aware that getting stuck focusing and obsessing over things that upset us, things that aren't going right, we realize isn't serving us and is making us suffer and miserable. So with the simple practice of a few minutes a day meditating, focusing on something like your breath or a mantra, and then when you get lost in thoughts, you just gently bring your attention back to that thing you're focusing on. And over time, you are going to have a very strong muscle of the mind to focus with great intention and attention on whatever you wish. That is the secret. I hope that helps. Thank you so much for watching, and peace and love. When I was in Dharamshala, the home of the government of Tibet in exile, I was at a Buddhist monastery. This was in a beautiful monastery on the top of a mountain in the Himalayas. And I was just sitting outside, looking at the forest, and a Buddhist monk had joined me. And he could read my mind, but he said, he just knew I was kind of pondering life, and he said, life fires the first arrow at us, and we fire the second one back at ourselves through our aversion and resistance and tension with whatever shot that first arrow, whatever kind of difficulty in life came our way. And he said the secret is to turn that second arrow into an acupuncture needle of healing. And that's just something, I'll never forget, because the way we view the world is through our conceptions of the world. We don't view the world, we conceive the world. And the question is just, how do you look at difficulties? Do you welcome challenges and opportunities to grow, or do you fear them, and do you resist them? They will come. The question is, how do you view it? How do you deal with it? And, when you have this viewpoint, which I've really adopted ever since, is that there is nothing bad that can happen in life. Everything is neither really good nor bad. It's just, okay, this happened, I'll deal with that. Now this happened, I'll deal with that. And as long as you can have this view, then everything is just peaceful. Nothing can disturb it. It doesn't matter if you win the lottery or lose everything. There is just, this is where I am, this is what I have to do, and do it.
Anger is something that only happens between the time of action and intention. When the action happens that angers us, our initial response is anger. Our blood boiling, our heart racing, tension in our body increases, fight or flight mode is activated. And then intention is that moment when we recognize our true intentions, not our unconscious response, but our conscious, intentional, thoughtful response, not in anger, in presence and peace. Our higher wisdom working through us. It is only between those two moments, the moment of action and the moment of intention, that anger can happen. And so, in order to stay in control of ourselves when anger arises, we must remember that anger is a choice. This is what we must remember is early on in an anger episode for it to cease. We are acting uncontrollable when we're angry. We have lost ourselves and we are possessed by our habitual, instinctual thoughts and behaviors. So we must remember that as soon as possible after the action that angers us occurs. And we have to lower that reaction time as much as possible, and eventually till there is no gap between the action and the intention. Eventually, we don't even want that blood to start bubbling and boiling, because we don't want that to disturb our inner peace. We want everything to bounce off our shoulders like rain, and we're wearing a raincoat, just sliding right off, not even affecting us. But even if you get that time down to just a few seconds, and you feel, because you're totally present, your blood starting to boil, your tension is increasing in your chest and your neck and your shoulders, and you just feel your heart racing a little faster, the sooner you recognize it, the sooner you become present and you take back control of your own mind with your own conscious intentions. The key that we take some deep breaths, as deep and as many as we can, slow, long, deep breaths, slow, long, smooth, deep breaths out until it's very smooth and we've calmed our whole body down. Meditate a little bit on what moments cause anger in your life. What moments are triggers? What people are triggers? And visualize moments when you've been angered. And what you're doing is you're recalling a memory that caused a lot of emotional stress at the time. And the more you can bring it up, the less emotional weight and baggage that moment has, the less weight that those comments or whatever that person did will have. And the next time that happens, there won't be that habitual, instinctual response. You'll be able to remain present and at peace and respond with clarity and confidence. The more you bring presence and awareness to your anger from the moment it starts to show itself, you'll never lose yourself in anger again. You'll understand exactly what it feels like in your body because you've seen it start to arise and fade away, and you know it's just a temporary experience that comes and goes, and you'll recognize it and identify it. We must turn that anger into curiosity, because curiosity and anger cannot coexist. So when something is upsetting us and all we can feel and think about is our ego bruised and our pride damaged, we must turn that feeling into curiosity about why we're feeling this way and what made the other person do this thing, or why might someone else have thought differently than you. The more we examine a situation, the more we can realize maybe we're taking something too personally. Or maybe this person had a bad day. And as soon as we open it up to possibilities of why maybe this isn't such a bad thing, we'll find a million reasons to back it up. So stay present, stay curious, and don't forget to breathe.
What are insecurities? Insecurities are thoughts stemming from anxiety, stemming from fear that we have little or no self-worth in this or that particular area. Not good looking enough, smart enough, not talented enough, not disciplined enough, whatever the area is that we're currently feeling insecure about is what leads to being self-conscious, having low self-esteem, low confidence, and being more driven by fear than fearlessness. It stems from this perception that there is a me, made up of this body and this mind, combining into an illusion of who we think we are. The truth of the matter is, every single person on earth is a miracle that defied impossible odds to be here today. Every little thing had to go exactly the way it did for the last 14 billion years for each of us to be here today. Just being is a miracle. We are magic. And I use that term in the sense that it is inexplicable by science why there is life, how it started, why there is something instead of nothing, and how we are all here today. And so when we remember that, we have to ask ourselves, when we have insecurity arise, who are the people we are allowing to judge our self-worth? Is it someone who has a kind and good heart with wisdom? Is it our own ego and our thoughts that are criticizing us in ways we wouldn't stand for any other person we know to criticize us in this way? Whenever we feel insecurity, whether from someone else or from our own mind, these are criticisms coming from a lower level of consciousness than what we know to be true, which is each of us is a miracle, magic, of infinite value, of infinite worth. And it doesn't matter if we're being judged by 100 fools or our own thoughts in our head, as long as we understand how precious each life is, how precious each moment is, and that no foolish thinking can affect our knowledge of that. The fact is, for almost everyone out there, someone is better than you at something and someone is worse than you at that same thing. We don't need to measure ourselves against others. We just have to do what our hearts inspire us to do, with love and joy and passion. And we can focus on this moment instead of reliving moments of doubt and criticism. When we are present in the moment, there is no self-doubt. There are no negative emotions. There's just being in the world, flowing through whatever comes our way, not resisting or fighting. And it is just joy. And in this joy, in this trial and error of life, where we just keep moving forward, a confidence emerges that no matter what comes your way, you'll be able to handle it with grace and strength. Because you know that in this life, everything won't always go the way we wished, but you will know deep down that you can handle whatever comes your way. Life doesn't come with a guidebook. We're not given a crystal ball. There's no instruction manual. We just have to bounce around until we get to the end and just do our best to try to figure it out along the way. And there's so many things we need to ask ourselves in finding direction, finding purpose, creating a life of meaning. It's not easy to make these biggest choices in our lives. Do you follow your passion and what you love? Or do you do what you're best at or most value in? Do you take the safe job or try to start your own business? What even is my passion? And the only way to answer these deep questions is through meditation and reflection. We have to look at our lives without distraction and observe the things we gravitate towards, what really gets our heart jumping. We have to always be open to opportunities, seeking them out and creating them, using our network of friends and resources, branching out and making new connections, being open in what you're looking for and firm with what you don't want. There's a lot of ways to make money in this world, and you don't have to do all of them. You only get to choose what you wish to do and what's available to you. And there is a secret to the universe, which I have discovered in my life and in what I've observed in others, is that the bigger your ambitions are to help others, the more the universe will conspire to help you achieve that. So the bigger the dream, the better. Finding something that helps others will always be in demand. So ask yourself, what is your greatest contribution you can give to this earth? What are you passionate about that brings joy and improves the lives of others? And if you have the passion and believe, which are just states of mind, then you can do this on nights and weekends, and you can pursue any passion you love. And it doesn't matter if you're a big movie star or you teach high school drama, because you're doing what you love, And the only difference between achieving your dreams and following your dreams is the difference between how fancy the stuff is you surround yourself with. Just following your dream means you get to live a life doing what you love. The more you do what you love, the more likely you are to stick with it, endure the difficult times, and persevere to become an expert. And remember, oftentimes when we start something new, we're not great at it right away. But it's actually not the people who are great at something right away who end up being the best at something. The people who have a hard time at first, who stick with it, develop the discipline and the great habits of work ethic and improving their craft. Whereas the person who is a natural ultimately reaches a plateau and they don't have the discipline to stick to it. And at the first sign of not being an expert instantly, they quit. So it's even okay if you're not great at your passion when you start. It can even be a great advantage. You just have to believe in yourself, ignore the naysayers, and that belief in yourself and that this is your purpose. Those two things alone will sustain you so you can give it your all. You can become incredible at whatever you set your mind to. And you will have a life full of meaning and purpose and direction. We are born into this world and then quickly told the rules of capitalism to make as much money as you can, and there's no limit. There's no final number. And so we live our entire lives trying to reach this mountain peak that is never ending. It's like our human bodies are governed by the laws of physics, and our minds are governed by this collective consciousness that has set the rules that you need currency for everything, and you need to work for currency. And there is never enough money. This mindset can turn neighbors into competitors and create a selfish and individualistic culture. And while it's easy to look back at history and see competition as the core of who we are as humans, the correct way to see history is actually through humans coming together and achieving remarkable things. Like the 500,000 people that put a man into space, the communities coming together to rescue each other in times of disaster. All the beautiful moments in human history are people coming together, working together to achieve greater good. It's so easy and alluring to get caught up in the work we do and the chase for more. In some East Asian countries with high suicide rates, the number one reason is job related, either losing a job or not getting a job.
because their identity becomes entangled with their profession, and their honor is derived from it. Many of us may know people who have buried their head in work for so long, for so much of their lives, and they escaped any unpleasant feelings or healing from difficult times by burying themselves in their work. These people often can't retire because this is the only way they've learned to deal with painful emotions. And to get out of the competition, we simply have to get out of comparison. As it's been said, comparison is the thief of joy. A house that would make any homeless person excited can make another person depressed because they're used to something else, or they are comparing to something even better. This comparative mindset is so profound that there's a greater rate of suicide amongst people who were formerly rich and lost it all than there are among homeless and poor people. Because once they've gotten attached to something, once they have something to compare to, the old life is unbearable. Part of being present and training our mind to be present through meditation is about fully accepting this moment compared to nothing, not from the past or our dreams of the future, or where we feel we should be now, or what people we follow on Instagram are doing. The good news is this competition is made up in order to keep us spending and working. It's okay to set dreams, have ambitions, work towards your passions. It's wonderful to be dedicated and committed to achieving your dreams, as long as we don't lose ourselves, lose our true joy and purpose of life. As long as we make a life worth living for. As long as our job is just a job. And the more we can be happy for other people's successes and happy with our own shortcomings, the happier we'll be. An old Buddhist master once told me, our minds are like gardens. We either tend to them and give them water and sunshine and the things it needs, or we don't and let vines grow and not let it get watered enough, and the plants wither away and don't produce the fruits and vegetables, nuts and beans that we need. We can't always control our mind and our thoughts right away, but we can plant the seeds and tend to the garden, and over time bear the fruit
of our labor. Everything we do stems from the quality of our mind. How our mindset dictates our thoughts dictate our words, and our thoughts dictate our actions. And our actions turn into unconscious habits. When we set intentions for gratitude and love and kindness and generosity, and as we practice these traits, we are planting the seeds and tending the garden for beautiful things to grow. The more we engage in gossip and mindlessly consuming the news or social media feeds, the more we're planting seeds of envy and hatred and unhappiness. Every thought we have shapes and clouds our view of what is happening all around us. It either sees things as positive, negative, or neutral. And how it chooses to see different situations depends on how we've been tending to the garden in our mind. We have all experienced in our lives, we'll see two people experience the exact same thing, and one person will make the best of it, or laugh it off, or try to find the positive in it, and another person will experience the exact same thing, and they will lose it, go bananas, bounce off the walls, turn red with rage. And the only difference was the story they told themselves in their head about what was happening. One person came from a place of ego and felt like this situation shouldn't be happening to them. The other person came from a place of egolessness and gratitude, because they practiced gratitude. Because they nurtured their gratefulness. And the more we practice expressing gratitude and love, the more we will find to be grateful for, and the more love we'll have in our lives. The more we practice just being present and getting outside of our head, the clearer we can see our situations, the greater wisdom we will have, and the greater awareness we will have over our own thoughts. And through this awareness comes a peacefulness, because our thoughts no longer dictate our experience. They just become another observation in our perception. As we bring conscious awareness to our thoughts, the incessant negative thinking stops, because we would only think negative thoughts that create suffering unconsciously. And as we bring our higher consciousness into our mind, we begin to generate consciously and with intention thoughts that serve us, that serve our peace, and create joy. It's like William Shakespeare, the great prophet, once said, Nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so.